A week after the presidential elections, Jeff, where we finally know the results, we can finally turn the page, or can we? There are new betting markets out for the cabinet appointments. We have a lot of ground to cover still.
Lots to cover, lots of new markets. I have to hand it to Kalshi. They've done what they said they needed to do in light of all the influx of money that they saw shortly after they were approved as an exchange and run the election markets. In recognizing that they had an influx of about 150,000 traders and they had to give them something to do, they've been throwing up markets quickly, almost as quickly as Trump's been appointing names. So there's been a lot to look at over at Kalshi in the last couple of days. So let's talk about it today.
Jeff, we have been going back and forth about the shape of the election here. Who's going to win the popular vote? It's angling towards Trump. By what margin that victory would come in play? How many seats the House of Representatives will have at the end of the day? Because the Trump transition team has been raiding the House to a certain degree to fill out his cabinet, as he is wont to do. Jeff, you and I were also talking off screen about how people may be playing some of these newer markets as it pertains to individual House races right now. You mentioned some of this in the Luckbox magazine, though. So before we get into the prediction trade, why don't you talk to us a little bit about some of the betting market focuses in this week's Luckbox magazine?
Sure. We'll do a weekly plug like we always do. Luckbox magazine. It's a digital magazine. Comes out every Thursday around 11 o'clock Central. It's free. Go to getluckbox.com to subscribe. And we always cover the prediction markets in every issue. Today, we opened it with a story about the Polymarket CEO, Shane Copeland, who was woken up at 6 in the morning yesterday by the FBI, who came in and took away his phone. Nothing else. He wasn't arrested. No charges were filed, but they did take his phone. He immediately cited it as political retribution for having a platform that called Trump an easy winner when all the polling said it was going to be a close race. Bloomberg reported later in the day that it was likely, or they believe it to be, an investigation into whether or not U.S. citizens were improperly accessing Polymarket to trade, because remember, that platform is restricted from U.S. citizens for trading. And it's a story we're going to be watching. It's one of the things we mentioned in today's Luckbox. We also took a look at DraftKings, who acknowledged, and we're going to be covering sports and the prediction trade going forward every Thursday at this time at 3:30 Central. And it's interesting to note that you can beat the House. DraftKings, in their earnings report a couple days ago, said they lost $250 million to NFL bets that just went against the House, that even their algorithms couldn't slice it the right way. When you have fantasy players, when you have favorites that are scoring points, it's hard to adjust the spread to keep it a House neutral scenario, and that's what happened. They acknowledged $250 million in losses in NFL wagers. That they're in business just to collect the vig, but in this case, the bettors actually prevailed. So that's some of the things we talked about in today's Luckbox, but I think we should go over to Kalshi. You just mentioned some of the House races. I placed a trade today, and I thought we could walk through the anatomy of a trade. It's one thing, and you and I were chatting earlier about, what's going on right now with Trump's appointments. In fact, a moment ago, it's been widely reported now within the last 15 minutes. So those of you watching this on YouTube later on, keep in mind that we're talking about Thursday afternoon, but that RFK is a lock for the Health and Human Services appointment by Trump. And here's that market right now. When I heard that, I bought at 78. I don't know. We'll see. You see where it's trading right now, live at 77, but it seems to be a high probability play. Ben Carson, I understand why he was there, but he's acknowledged from the outset that he was going to do something with RFK, and this seems like where we're likely to go. So I thought it was a reasonable play, and I'm in there as well, long from 78 cents right now in that RFK market. But what I thought, any thoughts on that, by the way?
Can't say I'm surprised. We heard this on the campaign trail. Part of RFK throwing his support behind Trump was MAGA and MAHA are forming an alliance. Right. Make America Great Again meets Make America Healthy Again. Right. And RFK is, of course, the front runner for that. So I think part and parcel to throwing his support behind Trump was, if you win, I would like a spot in the administration, as political deal makers typically do. I don't think that should shock anyone. And sure enough, it looks like Trump is fulfilling the promise to staff the campaign and the cabinet with people who are unconventional, not part of this system, who are not part of any institutional favor, and ultimately may shake things up in a manner that you may like or not like. But RFK fits the bill. He's been the front runner. I was honestly shocked that he was not the front runner, the entire time.
Right.
We're going to be straight shooters.
It's a good point, but Trump is hard. For example, I don't mind admitting, and we talked about it last week. You had a great stretch in the markets. I had a great stretch in the prediction markets on election day. I was on the right side of the equation there, and dealing with some profits and some extra cash. Took a flyer on one of the Trump appointments and lost. It was a small one, a small wager. So I'm really happy with my my batting average over on Kalshi. It's well over 80%, 85% probably over the last couple months, but lost that outright. And because Trump is so unpredictable, and it was a reminder to me, that's pure speculation with not a lot of indication. With names like with Matt Gaetz and Pete Hegseth coming out of nowhere, I think it's pretty hard to run these. But this one, in light of the widespread news reporting that occurred and that you could still buy this market at 79 cents, that's right where I bought it, where it's trading right now. The market's essentially saying it's an 80% probability. I think that's a fair value, but I think it's a high probability outcome. So that's why I went long RFK at 80 cents. But there's a market that's open that's offering a little better odds for some good reasons. I'd like to take a look at it. It's the California House District 13. California House 13 is it's trading right now at kind of a dead heat. The play that I'm talking about here is John Duarte. John is the incumbent. Took office in January of 2023, and he's the incumbent right now running for re-election. And I'd like to show you the handicapping that went into this trade, for better or for worse. We don't know the outcome. I am long Duarte. I bought him originally at 30 cents, and then today I tripled up on that at 49 cents. Or at 50 cents, actually. So where we are right, that gives me an average position at about 42. I'll probably stop that somewhere around 37 or 38 because there's fast markets. If a new round of ballots drop from Merced County, which is probably up next, that might immediately have an indication. Unless you have stops in to prevent your loss, you can find yourself trading at 10 cents in a fast-moving prediction market. So that's where I am right now. But let's talk about why. And I wanted to take a moment to kind of walk through this. And we can start by looking at the, let's go to Decision Desk. DDHQ is a website that most political prediction market traders use frequently. And if you click on California right there, in fact, you can see California House District 13 is right there. So here's where we stand right now. It's that shaded area. There's a 2.4% lead right now for Duarte with 75% of the votes in. So that's how it's looking, but this is California, and this is a Republican, right? So there, you really have to take a look at what's out there. 25% of the votes are out there. If you're looking at 150,000, that suggests there's about 50,000 votes that still remain uncounted, and that could easily overtake this 3,600, 3,800 advantage that Duarte currently has. So what you have to do is get a little bit more granular. If you click on that, let's see. Well, no, let's go over to the House district map. And if you, all right, so now we're over on Decision Desk HQ.
Yes.
Right. And if you look at 13, there's another link I think I gave you that will give you a, well, let's go to the, I'm sorry, let's take a look at the presidential side first. So click on California. And then if you, so right where you see the F in San Francisco, that's where it starts. That's San Joaquin County. Right now, it's pretty close to dead heat there. What we're looking at is how Trump versus Harris came in, and that's always going to be an indication of what the likely vote lies ahead. Currently in San Joaquin, 85% of the votes are in. So I don't, and it's running as a dead heat for Trump. So I don't expect that to tip the election going forward. Drag your mouse down one notch. Now you're looking at Stanislaus County. 70% of the votes are in Stanislaus right now. That's a 67, but another site's told me it's 70%. Trump won that by 12%. So you'd expect that there's some headwind in that market for Duarte. Currently, Gray is up 5%, 5 points in that market right now, with 30% of the votes outstanding. So this looks like a county that's going to tilt some votes towards Gray. If you scroll down to the next county, you're going to get to Merced. And Merced is about 66% of the votes are in. Trump won that by about 7%. And currently it's a dead heat in that county between Duarte and Gray. I expect it's not going to tilt the scales when the final tallies come in. Go to the next one. Now we're getting closer to Fresno. You know, it's Madera and Fresno. In Fresno, Trump won by 5, and currently Duarte is up by 12. I expect that market's going to even out a little bit more and get closer to 5, but it's still going to lean towards Duarte when all the votes are counted. And then if you drop down to the last one in Madera County, yeah, Madera is next. So what we've just looked at is the San Joaquin Valley, where these 5 counties exist. That includes, like I said, Fresno, San Joaquin. Those are the cities there.
Merced, Stanislaus, yeah.
That's right. So in Madera, Trump won by 20, and Duarte's up by 14 points there. So when you look at so I took these numbers, and what you simply do is you make a spreadsheet, and you say what was the current ratio of votes counted, and if it's at least over 50%, you can use that to extrapolate what the likely vote count will be going forward on the remaining votes. There's 5 counties in play. I added up the difference, and it came out to Duarte slimming on his lead a little bit. He's up by about 3,700 votes right now. I see him prevailing somewhere between 1,300 and 2,000 votes if the current vote totals extrapolate forward. He's in front right now. You know, he's Portuguese. 71% of CA House District 13 is Hispanic. He's a Republican incumbent in a section that has a high favorability for Trump, who won pretty well. It was recently a subject of redistricting, and the redistricting went in the favor of the Republican incumbent. Even though the 13th district in California is considered to be a swing district, I think considering the outstanding votes, that this leans pretty favorably towards Duarte. The market, if we go back and take a look at where the market is right now, they're calling it a toss-up. 50-50. A toss-up, right. I went over to Decision Desk's Twitter feed. If you can click on that, I think I provided you that link as well. And you can see here it says in the California 13 race, Duarte received some good news last night when Merced dropped 5 points, yet it's his opponent's home county. So that's a really good sign across the board. So we have a Portuguese businessman. He's the incumbent. He's a Republican. He's in front of the race right now. The outstanding vote counts, for the most part, are favoring him, except for, you know, I'm admittedly a little bit worried about Merced County because it's a dead heat there right now, and 1/3 of the votes are still outstanding. But Trump did win that county by 7 points, and I think this looks like a really solid play. So obviously, everyone's got to make their own decisions. This is not a trading recommendation, but this is the analysis that prediction market traders will use when they place a bet. You'll take a look at what's out there. You extrapolate the current trends and expect them to continue, particularly with a small voting sample. There's not a lot of room for error with only, about 50,000 votes outstanding at this point. And I think, you know, we're looking pretty good, up 2.4%. I expect that's going to thin a little bit, but Duarte should still come out ahead. I've projected a 1.3 to 1.5% advantage at the outset, and that's why in this toss-up race, I'm long Duarte with a stop around slightly under 40 cents. So wanted to give you the idea of what a trade looks like and how you can use different tools. In addition to Decision Desk's HQ, New York Times has a pretty robust site with real-time ballot reporting. You also have to look at Twitter and also local sites that drop totals often before DDHQ and the New York Times receive votes as well. But that's what goes into the underwriting of a House race or a Senate district that most of us prediction market traders are using on an active basis. Simple spreadsheet will extend your calculations and will give you some projected results.
Jeff, that's a really easily understandable way for traders to approach, dare I say, normal markets. But a lot of the markets that are currently listed right now in Kalshi aren't exactly normal. One of the ideas that we've been contending with here is now that Donald Trump is going to be president again, we all have to relearn Trump speak from the 2017 to 2020 era. That's not just a me thing. If people wanted to look this up on their own, there was a discernible impact on equity market prices whenever the president would tweet something out. And it's because there's a bit of randomness in the approach there. You don't really know what he's going to do. For the always sunny in Philadelphia crowd, he's kind of like the wild card in a certain sense. And to that degree, my attention turned yesterday to the attorney general market, where right out of left field, here comes someone who is not even listed on the contract board, Jeff. Matt Gaetz, the inimitable congressman from Florida, is the nominee for attorney general. He was not a listed candidate yesterday when that announcement was made.
That's right. That's right.
Does that kind of event inform you on how you should be approaching any of these Trump picks moving forward? Is there a randomness variable that maybe influences how much you would want to put into any one of these cabinet trades if you're operating in those markets?
Sure. In fact, I didn't really articulate that thought at the top of this segment, and that's really where I was going. As you and I both boasted, and let's see what happens with California House District 13, but we both boasted about our trading success and over the past weeks, and then I took that with a little bit of a confidence and took a flyer on a Trump pick that immediately evaporated, and it was a reminder of the exact point you're making right now. You can make tactical, well thought out strategic wagers using spreadsheets and extrapolating vote results and using information that you have access to. But the mind of Trump is pretty unpredictable. That's what makes him such a potent political force. At the same time, it makes it something that's not really that wagerable. So I've caught myself, and other than this last minute quick flyer based on what I think is part of the inefficient market aspects of Kalshi, right? We have a public announcement. It's hit the wires. It's been out there for about the last hour now that RFK is going to get this appointment, yet that market was still trading at 80, where was it when we looked at? Here it's still trading at
80 cents.
80 cents. And as you mentioned over the weekend when we were exchanging some comments, this implies you can buy $1 for 80 cents right now, if that's indeed the outcome. In fact, the market that you actually mentioned that you could buy $1 for 94 cents was the conversation we had. I think you can still buy those dollars for 97 cents. I'm trying to remember what market that is, but that market hasn't closed. But it's a long answer to your short question. Kalshi markets, prediction markets, are still, despite the type of volume and activity they're getting, they're still relatively inefficient. And, in the perfect world, you would expect that these opportunities are going to get arbitraged away, or they're going to be diluted by the subsequent volume that finds themselves in these markets. But in the meantime, that's not the case. And that's why there's a lot of prediction market traders that are used to picking up nickels and dimes in scenarios like that, where the market, just hasn't resolved itself and there's still a trading opportunity. So we'll see if that's indeed the case. And we're accountable for everything we say here. And, we can talk about it next week, how RFK, if he ends up in that slot, and how California House 13 ends up. But in the meantime, and excuse me while I adjust this, but in the meantime, that's one of the things that represents the appeal of prediction markets, is this relative inefficiency.
Yeah, Saturday night we were talking. I shared a tweet from Garrett_Archer, who calls himself the ABC 15 data guru. I guess he's a local data junkie out in Phoenix. And that's actually one of the things that traders should do. Follow the local reporters who are on the ground. Forget the big MSNBC, Fox News, CNN type of accounts. You want to follow the people who are actually on the ground on a state-by-state basis. So this guy posts this alert on Saturday, not even Saturday night. It's actually 11:49 a.m. Eastern time that I sent this to you. He says, last night at 9 p.m., Yuma posted 1,763 votes in the U.S. Senate contest. Gallego won the batch, 51.3 to 45.7. He leads now with 32,417 votes, with only 31,000 outstanding ballots in Yuma. So later that day, when I said the Arizona Senate race is now over, they're selling dollars for 94 cents, it's because these markets weren't updating in real time as the information was being pushed out into the world of Twitter or X. And if you had gotten in long at 94 cents when the data came out and just the number of outstanding ballots was smaller than the vote differential, then it was a quick 6.36% return on Saturday evening in the span of, a few minutes. And I think that's really the key here, right, Jeff? You point out these decision desk feeds. I'm pointing out the Twitter feeds here. These are still very, very nascent new markets. Yeah. They don't synthesize information really all that well or as fast as regular financial markets do. If you can find an information edge, if you can find a way to plug numbers into a spreadsheet and synthesize that information faster than others, it's really still dominated by people. It's not dominated so much by machines, and you can find a way to place trades successfully here.
That's right. And I'm smiling because I recall that conversation we had, and you went on to extrapolate that 6% return occurring in less than 1 day to what your annual return would be if you continue to do that.
Yes.
So yeah, that was very
I'd be retired by now, Jeff. That's the thing. I'd be retired by now.
You should be retired by right now. That's exactly right. But it's also indeed the case. So those are the kind of scenarios that occur all the time.
We just got to make 6.36% every 45 minutes, and we'll be good. We'll be good.
That's right.
Go ahead, though.
So let's go back and take a look at Kalshi's main page, because I think it's a fascinating tribute to them, how quickly they're responding to the market, opening up new markets quickly. I imagine there's going to end up being a will Gaetz be confirmed market, because that seems to be an interesting play that's out there. And let's just scroll through and see if anything jumps out at us. And well, there's Gaetz right now, who will be Trump's attorney general. Very interesting that even though Trump has acknowledged that Gaetz is his pick, what this market now is undoubtedly lingering on is whether or not the Senate will approve the appointment. So there seems to be a prevailing wisdom that Gaetz will not get through Senate confirmation. Again, for the reasons we mentioned. Well, this is a little bit more. This you could do reasonable due diligence on, I think, even though it would have been nice to see the closed vote that resulted in Thune's election, because I think that'd give us some indication as to how the Republican Senate internally might be fractioned, how it's fractioned and how it might be divided. They asked for a closed vote on that confirmation that Thune prevailed on, and if we had transparency as to how the senators voted there, I think we'd have more of an indication whether or not Gaetz may prevail. But this might be an interesting market to evaluate more. Any thoughts on it?
I don't think that Matt Gaetz has the relationships in the Senate based on everything that has been publicly said thus far to date, not just in the past 24 hours, but what people have been on the record saying about him going back years. I don't want to move into any speculation or bring those things up. People can Google Matt Gaetz and whatever rumors there are about about him.
He might be more concerned about his relationships outside of the Senate as to how they might impact his confirmation status. But I would agree with you.
That's not a minor concern. That's not a minor concern.
All right. Enough of the metaphors, right? Enough of the puns. I get it.
But we talk about the recess appointments, right? That is the key thing here. Recess appointments. Mm-hmm. Article 2, Section 3 of the Constitution stipulates that the president can adjourn the Congress. This is one of the reasons why he was saying in Trump world with Elon and Don Jr. over the weekend, we're saying that whoever's going to be the next Senate Majority Leader needs to agree to recess appointments. And it's such that the president can fill his cabinet without needing the 50-plus votes in the Senate to get there. Operating under the assumption that Democrats are effectively going to be a blank slate, no on everything then, one would assume that Republicans need to carry all 53 votes, or at least 51, to get across the finish line. And so when you have people like Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski right off the bat come out and say, this isn't the guy for us, we're not going to vote to support him. And then you think about the contours of things that Lindsey Graham have said, or Mark Wayne Mullen have said, or Tom Tillis, right? then all of a sudden 50 votes looks like it's in question. So I think the key here would be, and this may be kind of like the kill switch for everything across the board, every single cabinet pick moving forward, to the point where if I heard Trump utter this phrase, if Susan Wiles, his campaign manager, said this is what's going to be happening, now the new incoming chief of staff, or Trump himself were to mention this, that he's going to invoke Article 2, Section 3 to adjourn the Congress as soon as the new Congress is in session so that he can put them into recess so he can do recess appointments because John Thune et al. Will not cooperate. Every single one of these markets where Trump has a preferred candidate should trade to 100.
That's right.
In theory.
Yep.
And so I don't care what Matt Gaetz looks like, a reprehensible pick here for myriad reasons. My personal view, I think a lot of Republicans share that view. If you look to what people at like National Review or even some folks on Daily Wire were commenting about Matt Gaetz yesterday. So this is not a, partisan perspective. Mm-hmm. But at 40 cents, if Trump really wants to push this through at recess, they are selling dollars at 40 cents here.
Yeah.
And that is the reality. That's one of those Trump factors where there is an ability to get these done. And so, will RFK pass muster in a Senate that's pretty closely divided? Maybe. So he's not going to trade at 100 cents right now. There should be a little bit of a discount there because there's uncertainty that he could get rejected.
Exactly.
But if Trump says recess appointments are coming, take seriously and literally all of his picks, including Matt Gaetz for Attorney General, which at 39 cents right now, we could be looking in hindsight that this is a relative steal.
I'm curious. Click on Matt Gaetz's name right there. Let's see what the order book looks like here. There's a lot of asks out there, 43 and 44 cents. And again, a reminder, whenever you're on Kalshi and you're contemplating a trade, just click on the contract name and you can look at the underlying order book, give you an idea what money's out there on the sidelines waiting to get in. Okay.
And conversely, Jeff, there's that attitude out there that maybe Gaetz is kind of like the sacrificial lamb, where Trump says, okay, Senate, you didn't give me my Attorney General. I'll go for a compromise pick, but then you got to give me these other people that I want on there. You got to confirm Tulsi Gabbard to DNI. You got to confirm RFK to HHS and, Hesgeth to Secretary of Defense. And there could be some, donkey trading in the background.
Right.
And that's all part of this process. So these are going to be very fluid markets. You mentioned having stop losses that are tight here. I think if you're going to be trading these pre-election, your normal trade size, whatever that may be for an individual, let's say it's $100 a trade. With respect to some of these Trump cabinet picks and the possibility of randomness like Gaetz introduced yesterday for this market, maybe take a smaller contract size, maybe take a smaller position size, $75 instead of 100, just taking into account that additional layer of risk here in some of the cabinet positions.
Yeah. Let's go back to the main page, see what other contracts might be out there. Again, Kalshi is adding new markets at a pretty fast rate here. So these
they've done a great job. They've done a great job.
They really have. Elon Musk nominated to the cabinet. That's trading now only at 15 cents. I think that looks like easy money. You can buy that no for 93 cents. That looks like a pretty simple 7 cents to pick up. He's not going to be nominated there. Talk about conflicts of interest. That's why DOGE, the new Department of Government Efficiency, has been set up outside of the government. It's not meant to be a government office. I think this is, in fact, this market escaped me. That's an easy 93. Buying the no at 93 cents makes a lot of sense here. I can't imagine shareholders ever reconciling him taking a government position anyways. Again, there seems to be, and these are the inefficiencies that we talk about. This market should be trading considerably higher right now. That no should be 97, 98 cents right now, not 93 cents. Let's see.
Jeff, I think that's a great trade to put us out on, quite frankly, because we talked about this last week. Is he going to divest and put all of his assets into a trust? Is he going to walk away from SpaceX and Tesla? Probably not. And the way that this DOGE commission is set up is it's a blue ribbon committee, no statutory authority, and he doesn't need to divest from his assets there. So it's the easiest way for him to have some influence without actually needing to pull his position as CEO of these various companies. When we talked about this last week, it was, I believe, trading closer to like 35 cents. It's now at 9 cents, and that means you could still make 7 cents over 93 over the next few weeks, which, again, rate of return on invested capital, this could be a low-hanging fruit, a lower risk trade
And you could be retired by the end of the year if you repeat this every hour. Can we part with letting me see California House 13 one last time? I want to see how that's doing in real time. And keep in mind, if you watch this on YouTube later on demand, you're not seeing accurate numbers. Okay, this thing is still a dead heat. So there it is. John Duarte I'm long from an average of about 42. So we'll see how that plays out.